Hi, this is Krista at the Secret Yarnery. Today we are making this fabulous Scraptastic blanket, any size you want, whatever scraps you have. This is a great project to bust your stash, get rid of that yarn that you're not totally crazy about. You can make it look fabulous just by putting it in with another color. So grab all your bits, let's get started. To make your Scraptastic blanket, just gather up whatever yarn you have. I'm using all of my old acrylic. So I have skeins or balls that I have started and haven't finished, as well as bits and pieces. It doesn't really matter how big they are, as long as, it's worth your while to use it. How I'm going to do mine, I've divided my colors. So I'm going to make two blankets. One is going to be my bright colors, with my dark colors, and my other one is going to be light colors with pastels. So there's my darks. Probably need more darks, which I have. I just have to dig them up. So I'm going to always have a dark and I'm always going to have a bright, and that's how I am going to do my blanket. So to get started, grab a dark color and a light color, a bright color. And to start, I always like to have enough of my color to do 2 rows without changing, approximately 1.5 to 2 rows. So I'm going to use this black and this blue. To start, you're going to need your I'm using an 8mm hook, and I'm going to be using 2 strands of the acrylic at once, so 2 strands of size 4 thickness chunky acrylic. You can use whatever scraps you have. And to start my chain, I'm going to use a 10mm hook, just in case I chain tightly. I don't want one part of my blanket to be like curving in and like not stretch. I want it to be just as relaxed as my half double crochets. So I'm going to use a hook that's 2mm bigger, just to be sure. So you're going to start by making a slip knot and leave enough of a tail that you can weave it in later or sew it in later. There's no way getting around that. You're also welcome to do a foundationless start, but I think it's easier just to do a chain. So you're just gonna chain as long as you want your blanket to be, keeping in mind that you're using a bigger hook, so it might be a bit shorter. Not totally sure, so just estimate. For this tutorial, I am just going to be doing a short piece as a sample, because I filmed the whole thing and I can't find it. Okay, I think I deleted it off my camera by mistake. So I'm just going to be doing a small sample like this. So there is my chain. So with your 8mm hook, or the one you're going to be using for your blanket, chain 1, wrap your yarn, and into the second chain from your hook, so not this one, but this one, you're going to go in and make a half double crochet. So wrap your yarn and bring it back, wrap your yarn and take off all those loops on your hook. And you're going to do that 1 half double crochet into each stitch, going all the way back down your row. I'm just going into 1 loop. So all the way back, 1 half double into each stitch, or into each chain. I'll meet you at the end of this row. So now into that very last chain, I'm making my last half double crochet. Chain 1, turn your work, and I'm going to work back. So wrap your yarn and go into this very first stitch, that one right there. Half double crochet, and now 1 into each stitch going back. You want to make sure you have both of those strands of yarn on your hook, but you'll get the feeling of it. You'll know if you have them both. So work your way back, and whenever you want to change yarn or your scrap runs out, we will change our yarn. So I'll show you how to do that. Oh, I don't know who wound that up. like one of my kids. Oh, there we go. So I'm going to replace this. I'm going to keep my dark thread running through, or my dark yarn going through my whole blanket. So I'm just going to change my color now. So just cut your yarn somewhere around there. Put those out of the way, that out of the way. So this is my old yarn laying there, and this is my new yarn that I want to be using. So I'm going to take my old yarn and I'm going to put it across. We're making a magic knot, but I'm going to put it across my new yarn and loop it under and back a little like that and through to make a knot. You want to make one of those kinds, just a regular loop. So just a regular knot, and you're gonna pull it really tight. You don't want the yarn to break, but if it's gonna break, now is a perfect time. So now wrap your new yarn around your old yarn and loop it under and through to make another knot, just the regular knot, like that, and pull that one also really tight, as tight as you can. So now you have two knots, and you're just going to pull both those yarns. I want to call them threads, but they're yarns. Pull that really, really tight. Put all three of these yarns down, just so you have one sticking up. Get your scissors and put your scissors against that knot and give it a clip. So you wasted that much yarn. And the same for your other tail. Boop. So that is your wastage, which is pretty good. And pull it again to make sure it's not going to come out. Ugh. Okay. Now we're just going to keep crocheting. And I'll show you how it just sneaks in there. And it goes right up. And you can kind of poke it if you want that knot hidden. You can kind of work it in so it's inside that stitch. And away you go. You've changed color. You have no tails to weave in. And you're using just about all of your scraps. So that's how we're doing it for the Scraptastic. Of course, you're welcome to change your yarns any which way you want. I'm just showing you how I do it, especially for these Scraptastic blankets. So almost at the end of this row. There we got there. Now we're just going to chain one to turn, because we always want to go into that first, the first stitch, that guy in there. So we just chain one and go into the first stitch, and then it's easy to see your stitch at the end of the row, so your edges stay really nice and straight. So end of the row, we went into the last stitch, chain one, turn your work, wrap your yarn, and half double crochet into that first stitch. You're going to do that all the way along. For my Scraptastic blanket, I tried to do about 2 rows of each color, but not 3. So I'm going to want to change this color before I get to this join. It doesn't totally matter. There's a couple spots in my blanket where I went a few stitches over because I was almost running out of my scrap. It's up to you. You could also just go straight and use every color till it's finished and not worry about the design of it. But I'm going to get to about here, maybe one more stitch. And I'm going to change my color. I'll do this nice mango color. So again, cut your green. I'm going to cut mine right before that big tangle anyway. And we're going to do the same thing. So old color laying out there and new color going the opposite way. Not that it matters, but it makes sense to me. So now I'm going to make a knot with my old yarn around my new yarn. So over the top, back under, and make a simple knot like that. Pull it crazy tight. And this one, so my new yarn on top of my old yarn, and then back under and make a knot. Pull that nice and tight. Oh. And then pull your new yarn and your old yarn, and those knots slide together. Oh, and pull those ones super tight. And now cut your tails. So hold all 3 yarns down and get your scissors, put them right on top of that knot, and give it a cut. And the same with your last tail. Hold that one up and pull everything else down. Put your scissors on your knot and give that a cut. Pretty good. Give that a pull just to make sure. One time it did fall apart when I pulled it right now. So on a good note, you've only wasted like a smudge of yarn. You can just do it again. So now keep going along with that one. And again, you can figure out how you want to do it, so you can hide that knot inside one of your stitches. Or even if it's on top up here, it's fine because you're going to go over it with your next row of half doubles. And you're just going to keep going like this all the way along until you run out of scraps, or your blanket is as big as you want it to be. So that's the Scraptastic recipe, the pattern. So into the last stitch, let me just show you that real quick before I switch over to the footage I have of my finished one. So at the end of your row, this is a stitch, and it's always going to be a stitch. So when you get to the end of the row, you can see this last one. Let me undo that one. You can see that one's a stitch, and you know that that one's a stitch because it looks like a stitch and you can see the hole and everything. This guy here is also a stitch. You always have to go into that one. So you go into the one that you recognize, and then wrap your yarn and go into this guy. There is a stitch there, and you can see I have the 4 loops on my hook, but you got to pull it up from the side and do your half double. But you'll see that that gives you like a really great edge. Like you don't have to put a border on your blanket, it'll be really crisp. But remember to go into that last stitch on every row. Chain 1, turn your work, and go into the first stitch. So keep going, and I'll see you when you run out of yarn or you have a big blanket. My Scraptastic blanket is super fabulous. It's nice and long. I really like this edge here. I want to finish on a really nice color that I like, so I'm picking Bougainvillea Classic. So I joined over here. So I'm going to go all the way back, and I'll show you how I fasten off when I get to this side. So at the end of the row, just get to the end of the row, and always remember your last stitch. Half double, chain 1, cut your yarn, pull your hook up and your yarn through and snug that down to secure. Now we're going to take our trusty darning needle or yarn needle. I like these Knitter's Pride ones with that loop on the end. They're so easy to thread, and they don't get they don't start snagging like the Susan Bates. They're stronger, so I'm a fan. So put those yarns down along. You are welcome to do them one at a time. I'm just going to weave them back a little bit. Right. Pull that, cut that, and stretch that. So those ends are nice and in there. And that's finished! Ah! So I hope you enjoyed this video. My blanket is so big and delicious, I can't even begin to get it underneath the camera. But I'd love to see yours. If you're on Facebook, join our Facebook group. And thanks so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share, and stay hooked.